Like, we have been turned on. That's what it says, preparing live stream. So it's already connected for this. Hopefully.
Can we hear it?
Is that mouse working?
Yes, ma'am. Just check.
Testing, 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 testing.
Hello. My friends, hello. I think about you as I should. I know it's late. I couldn't wait. Hello. I knew that was the best.
But
Can I stop live streaming?
Right, begin.
I saw him in Dallas, Texas, where he sang Forever in Blue Jeans
It is.
3 times.
We are live streaming and the audio is working.
Very nice.
All right, hello. Everyone, let's call our executive committee meeting of the Children's Services Council of Lee County to order today on Thursday, June 12th at 5:05. Want to thank the team for bringing us on and for being able to have this meeting live streamed for our public. We will call our meeting to order, first starting with our roll call.
Chair Jones,
Yes.
Vice Chair Watts,
Yes, present.
Treasurer Mitchell.
Everyone's in full attendance, so now we'll have a motion for the approval of our agenda.
Mr. Chair, I will move the agenda.
Okay. And probably moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All ayes have it. It is passed unanimously. Is there any general public comment?
There is none.
All right, thank you. Now the Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee, Director Green.
yes, so Vice Chair Watts had suggested, I guess it's been a few months now ago, since we are in a place where we've reorganized the strategic framework, which is included in your packet, and need to get to some goal statements. His suggestion was that an ad hoc committee of council members be created to help get us through this process, then bring those recommendations back to the council prior to October 1 for a workshop and for approval or revisions. And so I don't know if you'd like to turn it over to Vice Chair Watts to give you his actual ideology.
We're having this discussion and during a council meeting, so I reached out to Sika afterwards just to make sure I understood, because we were getting ready to have the strategic planning workshop coming on the weekend. And so my meeting with her made me realize that things that I thought I knew, I was kind of off target. And so maybe that might be everyone. I just thought it might be more productive if we had the strategic ad hoc committee to kind of narrow down. And so we can get to this point of capturing data, that we might be able to move that needle a little faster through the strategic ad hoc committee. Let us do the work. We will make any decisions, without our council's input, but let us do the work to narrow it down and present something back to the council. I'm saying let us, because I would volunteer to be on the strategic ad hoc committee, but that was my vision for that. Versus us coming here on Saturday, trying to hash it all out, and that was my big point.
How many vacancies do we have currently?
We have one.
Just one?
Yes, just one.
The county commission is in the middle of collecting names for that. And the governor's office is on standby.
It was just an idea. Just an idea.
Well, I remember it was Councilmember Barstow who first talked about a strategic plan. But again, help me understand what it is we hope to accomplish with it.
So to that point, so when Marshall was talking about SMART goals, what are our SMART goals? And like from the beginning, Chairman Jones, we've been hearing the feedback, like how are we capturing this data to actually inform some of the decisions we're making and the actual impacts that some of the groups we're funding are having. So we don't officially have a solid data capturing process because we have a system.
We got the process.
We have the process, but we don't have we as a council have not, assumption I thought we have not officially landed on and agreed upon what we're going to actually focus on to actually even design the SMART goals to those things, to even come up, I know.
I'm not. But we have priorities.
Vice Chair Watts, may I jump in?
Yes.
Okay. So what needs to happen? We have our theory of change that identifies our priorities. We have our impact areas, those 8 areas. And what we now have are our funding categories that feed into those 8 priorities and ultimately the 8 impact areas and ultimately the priorities. What we do not have are the goal statements that go with each of the categories that we are funding. And that is what we need so that we know what the data is telling us. And so the thought process from Vice Chair Watts is that in order to get to the goal statements that go with each of the categories, kindergarten readiness, youth development, and family supports, start with a smaller group of the council to get to those goal statements, those SMART goal statements, and bring that back to the larger council for discussion and approval so that we can then have a strategic framework with goal statements assigned and the data that we are pulling from each of the programs that we're funding speaks to those goal statements, and we know whether we're moving in the right direction or whether we need to redirect. Because at this point, we have priorities, we have categories. What we don't have is what we're trying to accomplish.
What is that?
Okay.
That's the theory
this
of
is fine.
change.
This is after, I have the same expressions that you're presenting now, which is why after meeting with the executive director, I was like, if I'm feeling this way, sure that it's likely that everybody else is feeling this way. And for us to try to come in on a Saturday and accomplish what she just articulated, I think it'd be more productive in a smaller group. But go ahead.
Yeah, so when you're, whatever you're about to explain, could you take just take one of the, let's take kindergarten readiness. And let's throw out some, not that this is what the ad hoc committee will be focusing, but give me some examples of what these things would be.
Yeah, what will you do with kindergarten readiness that is different than what we've already done? Thus the strategic plan.
Because by the way, I don't disagree with Mr. Watts.
Or me.
Or you. I never disagree with the chair. Okay, once. But I'm not really sure what we're doing. But I would like to. So I kind of like the concept, but only if I know what's going to come out of it. Okay. And I'm not holding you to any of these. I'm just saying, throw out.
Give you some examples.
So for me, strategic plans, priorities, goals, SMART goals, all that seems like a salad of synonyms to me.
Okay.
All of which are restating the same thing to me. So unless you, and unless there's some type of paradigm or theory or some management practice that uses these words in a different context of what I understand to be priorities already, help me to get to where we are, such that we need this, because otherwise it seems repetitious to me.
It's going to make sense.
Okay.
Everything y'all, I
probably
had an hour.
So you were where I
It's
am
about to
now.
get
Yes, yes, and I was like, for us to, so go ahead. I'll let you.
So when the council was first formed, you created 3 priorities: success in school and life, healthy children, youth, and families, stable and nurturing families and communities. Under each, you had impact areas: school readiness, school age supports, physical, mental health, and then the 4 here: youth development, food stability, housing, and enhanced supports. You went further and explained each of these as what you wanted to do. So you wanted to increase the number of children who were ready for school. You wanted to increase school performance and decrease juvenile involvement. and thus and so with each of these. How are you going to do that? By looking at publicly sourced data that says if you impact these areas, you should see the differences you want to see in here.
So how is it that our second tier is not SMART goals?
Because SMART goals are specific, they are meaningful, they have a time delineation and a goal and attainable. So what we don't know, we know we want to increase, we don't know how much, we don't know where we want to increase as far as where in the community, and we don't have a time certain on this. So what the SMART goal does is it gives us the actual timing, the percentage, all of the things that tell you whether it's working. Right now, this is very generic. We know we want to increase it. We'll increase it by how much, by when, and where in the community. And so while,
like me, what's the first one there?
so under kindergarten readiness, there too.
Number one.
Increasing the number of children who enter kindergarten socially, emotionally, and academically ready.
And so then, for an old guy like me, your SMART goals are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that go underneath it.
Maybe not that many, maybe it's just 2.
But it provides a greater level of specificity in terms of time and how it gets done. So our original goals and priorities remain the same, but here now we're talking about how they are accomplished.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it, that's different than the priority, is how the priority is manifest
Exactly.
or accomplished.
Right. So the way to look at it is priorities, impact areas, key outcome measures, and that strategic plan is organized in funding categories that feed into all of this.
Can you take that to one more level, and to that point, that SMART goal will then, we agree upon that, bring to the council, that will then follow what?
Everything we do will be toward the accomplishment of that SMART goal.
So let's just say, we want, what's the first one? Emotionally, socially, and intellectually ready. Academically, okay. We decide, the ad hoc committee decides, makes a recommendation, brings it back that says, we would like 85% of the kids by August of 2027. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to say, put that into our data collection, and you tell us, are there what did I say, 85%? Okay, 85%. Are there 85% of them that are emotionally, socially, and academically ready come August of 2027? There aren't. Well, then which ones are helping towards that?
And it would even be more specific than that. So for example, it might say, we want to increase the number of children entering kindergarten in zip codes 32304 and 32310 by measuring their increase on the FAST assessment such that they are achieving whatever that goal is by fiscal year end 28. And so I'm sorry, look, one more thing. And so we would monitor and make sure that our programming is speaking to that achievement, understanding that you're going to get an incremental as you move to get to 2028. So if we say we want to increase it by, so that it is at 60%, or we want to increase it by 10% over the start, we are looking at programs to see if they are moving in that direction.
So then, with that being said, what qualifies board members to make those determinations? I would think that particularly where across the spectrum of identified priorities, particularly where we have providers, would it be in consultation with providers that we would determine what those SMART goals are? Because ultimately, I would think that the goals for which they have been awarded the monies they've identified what success looks like and moving the needle is, that's why we funded them. So then do we then consult with them and take, based upon the deliverables that have been identified, money's already awarded, to determine our SMART goals? Because I don't know that I am equipped to provide the level of specificity across those categories in terms of what success looks like. But the providers and the staff, the consultation with the staff would know. I would.
Yeah, I don't know that the providers know. I mean, what if the providers just know that they're taking money and that they have to, they have to accomplish certain tasks, but I don't know that
But look at
we've
the,
given them any. smart
but look
goals.
at the specificity which responded, like 85, there's a
Right.
move of the needle of 85% of more children in kindergarten readiness. A small group of not school, children's services council members, we don't know how to come to that.
But what you do, what you should have by now with the funding that we've done and the information that we provided is have the ability to say, we want to hone in on this. So the one I gave was real specific. And the reason I did that was because you can't just say they'll be academically ready. You have to hone in on what it is that makes them academically ready. And so in the procurements that we've done, we have put metrics in that fit with those key outcome measures that say if you achieve this, then that means your program is performing. But as a council, there still need to be goals that we can publicly state that this council is working on improving the FAST scores for incoming kindergartners by this date and this date. Now, we can develop some draft.
I just, again, and it goes back to subject matter expertise, right? The money, if, for example, kindergarten readiness, monies have already been awarded to, say, Kids Incorporated, the Big Ten. And Kids Incorporated has committed to doing this, that, and the other. Isn't that the SMART goal, what they said that they would deliver for us?
No,
No?
that's the metric. That's just saying that these are the metrics you have to meet to say that your program is performing. So if you meet these metrics, your program is performing. But we also want to ensure that we have an overarching goal.
Well, are we late to the SMART goals?
Yes, very late.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very late.
This is and just want to bring up two things to your point about providers into the table. If we choose to go the route of that ad hoc committee, I mean, I would envision that we would have subject matter experts as a part of the committee to help us drive the decision. That's if we go that route. But yes, the other idea to the strategic is we are late to the, and if the original goal is to try to do this all on that weekend with us, and I didn't think it would get.
We brought all those people in
We
to talk.
need somebody before the weekend.
Yes.
Remember, we brought all the early learning people in and they talked about that. And so part of that was to give a not only the landscape, but what they're seeing as challenges so that we can then say, what is a realistic SMART goal? Yes, so looking at what the state wants from a school district as far as what they say a performing school district should be doing, and then breaking that into pieces according to specific task and tactics that we can use, understanding that we can't fund everything. But if we focus in this area, it feeds into the larger piece.
See, can I ask a quick question? Remind me, was Miami-Dade the first Children's Services Council or Trust? Were they first?
Wasn't it Martin County?
JWB.
Oh, JWB, well, JWB,
Miami was one of the most recent ones.
Yeah,
It's now
Miami's-
20 years old versus 30 years old for everything.
So who's JWB?
so JWB is the Juvenile Welfare Board. They are out of Pinellas County. They have a specific designation.
Okay.
They're 75 years old.
Okay, yeah, but they're not, do they consider themselves part of the?
No.
FAC? Okay, so who's the oldest member?
Martin County's 30 years. isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Mark, St. Louis, Chief Broward, Palm Beach, they all came on at the same time, roughly.
Okay, all right.
Roughly.
I would love for one of those, whoever it is, who's, and not somebody who just got there, but somebody who's got a historical perspective of what they went through to kind of get to their SMART goals.
Do all of them have smart goals?
Yeah, and their strategic plans, and they revisit their strategic plans about once
I know
every
Palm Beach County,
5 years.
I'm 100% certain that they do.
Yeah, they do.
Marvin, St. Lucie actually came up and visited with the planning council to get us to this. Originally.
Yeah, and I'm not, I still, Mr. Watts, I love your idea. I love your idea because I feel like just get to the point where we're almost ready, we're smart enough to make a decision, but then we're not. I think a smaller group informed by smarter people with specific examples of what they tried and what worked. First, and with recommendations coming out of that ad hoc committee, I think would be incredibly productive, very useful, and
Or if we didn't want to do the strategic committee, then we then give the staff the charge to bring back the recommend, I mean, I don't know,
I think
I'm over, I'm just.
I still like your concept.
Okay.
And I think staff needs to be part of that
Okay.
committee. I think I throw out the idea of another council zooming in, or if they happen to be up here, joining along with a couple of members of the council. I think it's a really smart idea.
Okay.
From my perspective, I think that we are we don't want to be in a zone where we are entering year 5 without a framework
So
to which we can point our public and goals that go along with that framework, so that it's very clear, this council is working to achieve this in this area. And these are the programs that we are funding to achieve that. It also makes it much, and I'm saying much easier tongue in cheek, but it does make it much easier to hold providers' feet to the fire, because it becomes very clear what the overarching goal is.
Sure.
And the work that you are doing to achieve these metrics
Right.
is to get to this goal. It also, in my opinion, breeds innovation, because I understand what it is we're trying to achieve. And now I can really hone in on different programs instead of it just being, oh, that's a great program, we should be doing that here. That's a great program, we should be doing that here. No, we have a finite amount of money,
Yeah.
and it has to be focused in from what we've done. You got 3 areas in which you're focusing: kindergarten readiness, youth development, family supports, all of which weave together such that the families, youth, and children in this county will rise, and it feeds into the larger number.
Okay.
So when you hear, that's a great idea. Oh, I'm sure it is.
Mhm.
Show me where that great idea feeds into this.
This
Right.
goal,
Yeah.
right?
So I don't want you to give up on your concept, whatever we call it, it doesn't really matter. But I do think that if all 9 of us or all 10 of us get together on a Saturday morning, I just think, I think someone needs to have met before that to begin to develop the framework that we're discussing these things.
And realistically look at what other communities have done, because we also don't want to set goals that aren't achievable.
Right.
You know, you want 85% of kindergartners in Leon County to be ready. But all kindergartners in Leon County will not be going through programs that we fund. And B, we want to make sure that we are funding in areas where traditionally those numbers have been low. We were just looking at kindergarten readiness rates, and while they've gone up, do we need to be focusing in schools where it is traditionally low, Title I schools where resources, and so as they rise, then the entire county rises. So it just really gives us that focus, And anything that is not gonna feed into these goals, and my suggestion is no more than 3 goals for each of our funding categories. Then we're gonna ask you to table that and we will come back, and it really helps us focus in on what projects we should be bringing to you to consider funding.
Yeah, it just helps us as a council focus, everybody focus. So I love the idea, and I don't know, I'm happy to make a motion because I maybe I don't know why it's on the agenda, or is it on the agenda?
So according to our
vote?
bylaws, an ad hoc committee has to be approved by the entire council, but the recommendations can come from the executive committee for that, and then it will be put.
Well, okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we bring that forward. And clearly, if the council after this, a similar discussion doesn't like it, it will shoot it down, but I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'm probably moved to second that we would move forward our strategic planning ad hoc committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Well, I wasn't even sure what my motion was. Sure, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate it. All right, employee disclosure review.
So Mr. Chair, if you all go to page middle one, big 8, our general counsel, Mr. Rowe, has provided a memorandum on the possibility of the council creating a policy regarding ethics laws and employee disclosures. This came out of let me make sure I say this right, because I don't want to make it seem like we got anything wrong going on, because we don't. But during the financial audit process, there are certain questions that the chair, the treasurer, myself, and Ms. Snyder are asked. And our treasurer felt, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but just wanted to know that if he were to answer the question, yes, I feel confident that there is no fraud going on, there is because there is some documentation there that employees have signed saying, we will ensure that everything we do adheres to ethics, a code of conduct, and we disclose anything that could create a conflict of interest. So we questioned other CSCs. While none of them have a policy, they do, and it's detailed in this memo, several of them do require that their team members sign code of conducts every year. Of course, disclosures. And so with that, this is the memo, and the job of this committee would be to decide whether we want to forward this discussion to the larger council, and the council approves creating a policy, then Mr. Rowe will help us create a policy and an adjacent disclosure form or code of conduct, whatever it is that the council would like to do.
So, and just a further explanation, it was when the auditors sent me this list of questions, I looked at it and was like, well, I hope the answer is yes, but there is nothing that we as a council had done that would help me determine that the answer was yes or no, whatever the positive answer would be. And so I thought, well, and I called the auditors and I said, don't ask me to answer this question, because I don't really have any way of knowing the answer. Now, look, here's the thing about bad guys. Bad guys are going to do bad things, and they're going to try to get around rules. So no matter how strong a code of ethics is, you know, there's a chance somebody's going to break it. But by having this, I appreciate Mr. Rowe tackling it. At least we have sort of a scope or under which we can begin to look at, and council members have to do it as well. I mean, we sign something every year that, you know, says we're not violating something, so.
You're gonna bring it with him?
You can if you, well, let me not tell that tale because Mr. Rowe will not be in our meeting.
I mean, I just think it's a no-brainer. I think he just needs to bring us the appropriate language. Because see, one of the things I make a distinction on, because we're policymakers as well. There's policy with the capital P and there's policy with the lowercase p. And lowercase p policies are just processes, right? Policies are what we memorialize as a part of our formal documents. So I'm sure he will make the distinction of what he'll provide us for the policy that goes in policy, and then y'all will come up with your processes, whatever forms and everything else that comes from that. But I think if that's their recommendation, I think he should be empowered to do so on behalf of the council, and he comes to us ready for us to approve and vote on.
Okay. So if
Right?
it is,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, yeah, so.
Okay?
Yes.
so if it's the will of the committee, we will go back to Mr. Rowe and ask him to go ahead and develop that policy. We will not have that in June, but by July,
Right.
get ready for.
And I think that's the beauty of this committee here, right? That, hey, go forth.
Alrighty.
All right, millage rate discussion, property tax issue.
All right, so if you turn to. What do you want to talk?
I think we're gonna disagree on.
If you turn to page 11, you will see the valuation as of June 1st and the estimated revenue that would come in. Mr. Mitchell, if you don't mind, I would love to turn this over to you.
Okay, well, I mean, there's not, Yeah,
Yes,
there's-
page 11.
there's really not, we sort of talked about this in the last Budget and Finance Committee. The Budget and Finance Committee that was originally scheduled for today, sort of had an outline of what would be our budget. Because remember, when we ultimately take this vote, we're taking two votes. We're taking a vote on the budget, which informs and determines the vote on the millage rate. Because if you decide you want to spend $10, we have to raise $10. And then you divide that $10 based on a millage rate, and that's what pops out. I think Sika and Dina have done a good job of giving the council several different options. The full millage rate, the original millage rate, the current millage rate, and a rollback rate, which has as its goal raising the same amount of money that we have raised this year. Not the same millage rate, but the same amount of money. So those are the four options that we would be presenting to the Finance Committee for their consideration with a recommendation or no recommendation to the full council. And then bringing forward to the full council with the thought that anyone can sort of speak to one of those four. And if they've got a different idea, throw that out as well. The nice thing is that the numbers are pretty easy to multiply. You're just multiplying, 0.375 or 0.5 mils to whatever the total collected amount is, and that will drive the number. So that's it. And without though the budget in front of us now, the document that Sika provided to you and I and Vice Chair, you're not on the Finance Committee, right? Or are you? Okay, so while it needed to be tweaked,
Just a little bit, yeah.
it kind of gives you the framework. So we will bring that forward to, we're gonna have a council meeting, and then we're gonna have the Finance Committee.
Right, and I can bring for the council meeting on the 19th.
Yeah, I kind of feel like
It's,
I think we're
we
okay
can
not
wait.
doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, only
Okay.
because I think there's enough on the council
It
meeting
is.
that, and you know how people get, they want to talk about this. So I'd much rather keep that meeting brief, because we're not really ready. The finance committee meeting, the finance committee hasn't even met. And
So
yeah,
finance committee is scheduled for July 12th. You will look at the budget as well as the millage rates and either choose to recommend a millage rate or choose to just take it to the council. Then on July 17th, the council will decide on a tentative millage rate and the accompanying tentative budget. That will be noticed and we will move forward with the 2 hearings in September.
is that 5 days enough time? I
It's
want to
really
make,
the 10th, not the
The
15th.
10th, what I said,
Well,
I'm
it's
sorry,
today.
the 10th.
It's
It's
the 10th,
1
so
week.
it's 1 week.
well, it's not today, it's July.
July
10th.
10th and July 17th.
Right, okay,
Right.
so,
Sorry.
and that's enough notice for a tax.
No.
The
So-
trim is different.
So.
No, yeah,
Hold on. So when you guys meet on the 10th, right?
the finance committee
The
meets on
finance
the
committee
10th.
meets on the 10th. If you choose to do a recommendation, that's fine. That recommendation will then be at the 17th governing council meeting. On the 17th, the council will vote on what your tentative millage rate will be.
So you will notice that long before the 10th.
No. So once you do that, we put that in the portal. And we, and the tax collector's office, the property appraiser's office, uses that number to send the notices out with the hearing date to the public.
But for the public, we are required because we are considering a millage rate, a recommendation. Yes, it will go out to the full public, but for the public who wants to appear
For the
and
meeting,
try to.
it's noticed 7 days in
Okay,
advance,
that's 7 days is enough.
like every.
That's all I
meeting.
wanted
Yeah.
to hear, yes.
So
Yeah.
the notice for the finance committee will go out 7 days before the 10th, whatever date that is, the
Third.
3rd. Then the notice for the governing council meeting will go out the day after the finance meeting. So that's 7 days notice. Because the meeting is the next week.
Okay, can we do this? I'm worried that isn't 7 days, that that's 6 days. That if you send it out on the 11th and we're meeting on the 17th. I mean, just my basic math, but if it's 11 to 12, 12 to 13, 13 to 14, 14 to 15, 15 to 16, 16 to 17, that's 6
Seven.
days.
No, it goes out 11th on the morning, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Yeah, but we're meeting on, okay,
Seven
I'm, here's the thing though, is that what we could notice is that we are going to be discussing it. And these are the 4 that are being proposed. There's no way anybody can say, we're going to vote on one of these 4. If we send out at the same time that the full council is going to consider a millage rate. And that these are 4 options, again, I assume it will probably come back one of these 4 options. But if there's a compromise or an alternative, so be it.
Does the notice process, would that satisfy you that it's different? So if they're noticing it on the website, if they're noticing, not their formal, go ahead.
No, we notice it through the public meetings and it is sent to the press and it is
Right.
sent to anybody on our list and then it goes on our website. And when we notice it with the agenda
Right.
and any attachment.
So this is what I'm getting at is, it sounds like his recommendation is wanting that before what you guys are articulating, you would send it. And so, and then what I hear from you is like, we wouldn't have all of those documents and things ready to do it anytime earlier than what you're proposing. So what I'm getting at is there another mechanism just to announce the meeting in general that's occurring before you?
I want to inform the public that we are going to have a
You know what I'm
conversation.
saying? Like,
Because look, when you do the morning of the 11th, there are 24-hour periods, morning of 11th. Okay, so the morning of the 11th, the morning of 12th is one day. 12th
Oh,
to
you're doing
13th.
24-hour. Well, we
13th.
can notice it on the tenth.
And right, and I'm comfortable that, again, there's no way anybody can determine what is going to come of that meeting. But we owe it to I think we're required, if we're talking about a tax on people's property, to give them 7 days. And I, for some reason, thought it was 14 days, but if it's 7
No,
days, it's
don't
fine.
do that.
Uh,
Oh, I only say that because it would be hard to notice it.
Does that have to be a motion?
No, we do that anyway.
Okay,
We'll just make sure that we do it on the. So we'll notice the 10th of, so the 10th is on a Thursday,
Yeah.
right?
So we post it on the Thursday, like as close as possible, but because it's usually at 5, when we post it, I send it to the press on the following morning, because they're not gonna do anything.
it's that Thursday date.
But it's Thursday the 10th at 5 p.m. We typically, sometimes it's 7 or 8, but it gets posted on Thursday night online.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the press on that Friday morning.
okay, so I'm asking, we know we're going to take that vote on the 17th. Why don't we send it out at the same time we're doing the notice for the meeting on the
Well, what I will say is if we send it out too far in advance, the press isn't gonna do anything with it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we could do if maybe as a way to, because I understand exactly what you.
I don't
your
even
concern
care
is.
about the press.
We
I
could
care
do
about-
we could do a pop-up on our website, just reminding people that the meeting is coming up. I will tell you, last year we covered these exact, and people knew when the budget meeting
But
was, and
we
they.
had a finance committee month before. That's all I'm saying, is that we talked about it. We talked about it in June, and then we had a finance committee and had a finance committee in July. And right now, and I'm saying this because I got a text asking me. Basically, somebody wanted to be here today at 3:30, and I was like, we're not voting on anything. Voting on it in July. So there's clearly interest. I don't think we're gonna be inundated with people, but
We
there's
can-
clearly.
Oh, I mean, Paul, I'm sorry.
You're right.
Mitchell,
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a problem, but we will assure the public, we will make sure that there is plenty notice. And we get it on our social media outlets as well as, so that's not a problem.
I've just actually posted that the meeting dates are now online, but we just don't have the agenda, so that's done.
Okay.
So no problem. At all.
Thank you. So June 19th, government council meeting agenda review, what you got for us?
So that is
Page
on
12.
page 12, yes, so Chair Jones had asked that we always have an executive meeting prior to governing council meetings so that you can review the agenda. And if you need to make any additions, deletions, changes, or the like, so here is the agenda. The first part is normal. We do know that our vice chair will need to participate virtually, and we'll do that. On the consent agenda, we'll have the meeting of the minutes of April, the executive director's report, and we'll have the trim schedule. During committee reports, the executive committee report will be there, finance and budget, and that we will need to change this because we
Yes.
did not have a finance and budget meeting, so we will take that off the agenda.
But we can have we can put his backup financials in May. It's just so that they've got them.
Actually, I'm sorry, this is right. It's the meeting from May on here. So this is correct. And then we'll do the financials from May. Because remember, we had a meeting in May.
Yeah, but it won't be the first review of the draft.
No, it won't. So
Right.
we'll edit
That, right, but the financials for May will be there,
Yeah, I just got them.
right?
And then under programming, we we will have the Family Resource Center's update and an expansion request. The kindergarten readiness program, so this will be the renewal for rebound and recovery. Early Learning Coalition's renewal. And then there's a new request for Family Promise for a transitional, please help me get the name right, Howard.
Transition
Ms. McPhail.
coordinator.
A transition coordinator position to help with family stability and kindergarten readiness. And you will receive all of this information first thing in the morning, if not tonight.
That's the reason I said let's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then our upcoming meetings there, which I will not go through.
All right, colleagues, I hope that you might have a interest in this. I am interested in knowing. We read the headlines of some of the impacts of recent decisions, particularly on research institutions, grant monies that may or may not be available to them. And I'm interested in knowing what those impacts look like for our human service agencies, particularly those that serve children. I think that I understand what has been our methodology and explanation in terms of what we have forecast for our millage rate. I agree that we need to offer additional deliverables and be able to measure the needle of progress. I'm also interested in knowing is if there has been any impacts on human services and human service organizations in our community, and they're being able to provide services for children in lieu of recent decisions at the federal level. And so I would love if we could reach out to our colleagues and ask them to do a presentation of what they know has been the impacts on their member organization.
And when would you like that presentation?
If they can do it next week, then they can do it next month. But Amber Tynan or whomever, Latina Designated or LaShawn Gordon, because they can do, and they even want to do a survey of their membership. But I'm interested in knowing if those impacts have trickled down to them as well, because we already are making enormous provisions for what we know will be our shortfall at the school district from monies that will be what we had from the federal government before and are not going to have this year. And we're still tightening our belt because we think there may be some other cuts to long-term programs that may go away because they may be interpreted as something different than what they are, right? But again, because of the capriciousness of some of these decisions, but the impacts are no less great and will, influence in how we're able to provide services. I can imagine if we're dealing with a school district, human service organizations may be dealing with it as well, and we may have to be a bigger bailout or provide additional funding, whereby we can have more money at our disposal, potentially be able to make up the difference. And that's what I want to know if that is the case. Right?
We will talk with EPHS and work with
I would also point out that one man's capricious is another man's deliberation. I'm not so sure that it's fair to say that all decisions are being made capriciously. But I know you have your opinion. I have mine, and I think we have to wait and see as the dollars come in and which programs are funded and the determination as to what things are cut and where additional dollars are. Having said that, I think it's a very useful exercise to sort of hear where local agencies are being affected.
Well, I'm thinking about specifically food services for children. We already anticipate those impacts, right? That's not deliberations, that's capricious.
Well, again, I would say yeah.
If we're talking about balancing the federal budget on the backs of feeding children, that's capricious.
Let the record show that I just have a different opinion with you,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
But again, this goes back to
Synonym,
synonym soup that I talked about earlier.
yes.
Yes. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Anything else on this agenda that requires our review?
So I do need to bring to the executive committee's attention, I was just reminded, our bylaws require that the first presentation of the draft budget be at the June governing council meeting, so I will need to provide that
Okay.
at the June. But what I will do, because your members will send that to you.
Yeah, it's, if you get it, what you provided earlier today.
Yeah.
Was great. With the
Yeah, I
little
just
tweak.
needed to do the tweak and
Yeah.
I'll get that to you.
And you watch how fast that goes, unless people really want to dive in. But when I look at the rest of this meeting,
It really is to present it. There is no voting,
Right.
there
It's a
is
reading,
no
right?
nothing. It's just to read. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so as long as we provide it, we have adhered to our bylaws. And then next on the agenda is a programming committee. There was Vice Chair Watts, would you like me to turn that over to you? Is that
Sure.
your suggestion?
From the last council meeting or the one we had about discussion of SIPs, I too had a meeting with CSC because I had some more questions. And I was trying to understand how we arose to that space of no more program services committee. And what it seems like is in our council meeting, we were having lengthy discussions that maybe could have been more efficient or effective if we actually had the program services committee doing some of that research, getting that information and bringing back to us a recommendation. So I thought it was maybe a good idea to entertain bringing that back and not, or go ahead.
No, I'm with you. And I used to chair that committee, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
And I don't remember wasn't it that because of that we decided to move those discussions to a committee of the whole, is what I believe, that there was, that the whatever deliberations that were occurring. I mean, if we wanted to redefine what the Program Services Committee does,
Mhm.
I think that might be where we would start.
to
Okay.
deal with SIPs in particular, is that?
Or
and, yeah.
but you want everything to kind of come through Program Services.
I-
Because before it used to, for example, we used to do, the RFPs used to come to us.
Mhm.
And then we would deliberate on them, and then they would come to the full body. And it
then
seemed,
they get deliberated again.
and I think it's because our board was so small that half of us were on program services, so then we would just be informing the remaining 3 or 4 who weren't already on the committee. But I think with a far more narrowly tailored or maybe even broader scope of work for that committee, which can easily be redefined by any one of us for our consideration. If you think there's something that's being lost in that review or analysis, I think you ought to come back with a recommendation as to what that committee should look like and its duties and responsibilities.
Okay. I think almost if we do decide to go with the strategic ad hoc committee, and once we get the actual goals, I think we should look at then entertain.
And then they can do
Yeah,
Even if it's called something.
so
Even if it's called
it's almost
something.
like it would do the overlay
right.
of the review of both the RFPs we put out, as well as the recommendations coming forward for our consideration for funding.
Agreed, because I think the other benefit to that is without it, and we bring it to the council, this is nothing against any of the council members, but if we haven't reviewed or had enough time to review or the package or whatnot, then we're having lengthy discussions that, we're not voting or someone's or whatnot. And so I think it has the potential to give that buffer for that group to come back and
Like a search and screen.
yeah.
Yeah, I will say, and I understand where you guys are going on this. As somebody who reviews everything, and I take the time to review it, I am ready. I mean, I'll offer my services to sit on that. Another committee, but I feel like we are a committee, like the program services committee to me was a committee of 10. Like I definitely, I wanted to hear it as, you know, things were being contemplated and what have you. So, yeah, it was, again, maybe we call it something different. Maybe they contemplate things that are different. But the programs themselves and the RFPs that are dictating the programs we're selecting, I kind of want to say, if you don't read your backup and the stuff that you guys spend so much time putting together for us, shame on you. And I don't know that having a program services committee, I feel like that's kind of like a crutch for.
But think about the example he just used, right? For example, once we put in those strategic goals, so then that committee would make certain that the documents that come to us have had that review already. That's all.
Right.
I wouldn't put it to shame because some of this will determine the product that comes to us has already been vetted. So that when it comes to them raw and it comes to the full committee refined.
Well,
And
I
they're-
like the idea of doing the first thing, the ad hoc first, figuring out kind of where we are, and then determining what this new committee would look like. By the way, taking something off of my plate is, I have no complaints about. I just know that whatever I'm gonna vote on, I've read.
You've read, but the only thing I think what you're describing is that even you will not have seen the document, or the full committee will not have seen the full council will not have seen the full document that you will ultimately see as a councilman. They will see something far more less refined, because they're gonna be responsible for doing the overlay of the strategic, the SMART goals, making certain that it meets that criteria before it even comes to. So that, I just think it just gives us another level of veracity, perhaps, or review or analysis.
By the way, I'm not saying I'm against it. I would like to see what comes out of the ad hoc committee and then make a decision.
For example, not to prolong the meeting, I just want to ask. We're gonna next meeting have a discussion about family promise new, right? So that this is a funding proposal, right? That originated through.
It originated after looking at the needs assessment and having some discussions with the provider about where we see a hole that meets with our needs assessment.
So, and then that discussion, so next meeting, there will be something drafted already.
Yeah, you'll get it tomorrow morning.
So we will then have a whole conversation,
Yeah.
right? Like, and so that maybe if I'm using it right, that could have been an example where like this family promise idea, when I've already kind of gone through the meat and potatoes of that committee. Okay, yes, like we vetted that it's going to meet our SMART goal in the next 3 years. This is going to impact X, Y, and Z.
And were it not for the program service committee, it might not even make the light of day.
Right.
So if I may,
Okay.
we had the program services committee. And what was happening was that committee was vetting our RFPs and ITNs and all of the things. And when we would come back to the big committee, now keep in mind, we're still new. The big council would then re-debate and read and talk and really wanted to be a part of all of that discussion.
Yeah.
And so the determination was made by this council to dissolve the programming committee and in lieu of these workshops. So we would try to put together workshops so that it was not in the council meeting, but rather in a workshop to be able to, so that the whole committee or whoever was available would be able to look at whatever we were discussing. So we actually changed our bylaws. You all actually changed your bylaws and took the programming committee out as a standing committee.
Because we would come back to have a program services committee meeting, come back to the full board and members who had been on that committee and gone through it. come back with more questions
Yeah.
or change, it came with a recommendation and then we get the full council and then all of a sudden it was just as if it was all new to us.
Yeah, and
And I was like, oh, y'all got me.
Okay. So maybe that's not.
So, well,
Oh,
no, I think we
If-
table it
if it's been
until
defined.
the ad hoc committee meets. When I was not shooting it down. I did not like the fact that the program services committee, as somebody who very much was interested in, wanting to be part of what the final decision was, not sort of be a rubber stamp. And that was my dilemma with the program services committee, the way it was set up, is it was coming to us as I get backup, and I'm like, well, I have all these questions and I've got all these different ideas and I didn't want to stop the process, but I wasn't the only one who wasn't on the program services committee that was having similar questions and ideas and differences. Having said that, I definitely think there's value to creating a committee that vets the unsophisticated kind of mess and tries to make some sense of it and brings it to the council.
And I think you're wise to also say, let's see what comes out of this other committee. Then out of it will come the definition of the assignment of a brand new committee. That may very well have a different name altogether, such thereby perhaps erasing any confusion about what the former committee used to do.
And we can change the bylaws pretty easily.
Sounds good.
Yeah, just get
the changes would happen
Just get
in October.
Just get a crayon and. All right, upcoming meetings and events as we can all see are present. Thank you for letting us know all this. All this has been calendared for us, correct?
Yes.
All right, any member comments?
Yes, sir, excuse me.
Go ahead.
I think the agenda, that's the agenda for the governing body.
Oh, I'm
Question on
sorry,
our
okay.
agenda was, when is the
Oh.
executive committee meeting next? We do not have that on the calendar.
Okay, I apologize.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes,
It's gonna be between the 10th and the
Yes.
17th.
So it would need to be between the 10th and the 17th.
We could do it we might be able to do it on the 10th right after the meeting. Although, I want to make sure that one is we have to have more
Which one is
for the
it?
finance committee. So if we did the same way we had set this one up, where we did,
I thought there was a standard date that we used.
No, because we are trying to make sure that first of all, we want to make sure you're available for executive.
so right now, the finance committee is on July 10th at 5:00.
Right.
At five?
I would have zero problems bumping it to 3:30.
That's a,
Oh, sorry.
for your other committee members, they might have a hard time at 3:30,
Yeah.
is what we've discovered.
Okay, so maybe what we do is keep the finance committee at 5. Maybe we do the executive committee. Wait, we want to do the finance committee first. So we do the finance committee at 5 and then do the executive committee at 6. I'm looking at the two of you. I have no problem doing
Are
it.
you available at 3:30?
I'm looking at that.
Do we have the finance have to meet first?
I think ideally it would because,
Yeah, the executive committee doesn't have any responsibility with millage or budget.
right,
The executive committee,
except that we're setting I don't think that we're setting the agenda, we're not really worried about it.
yeah.
So I'm good,
I can be three.
Because it's fewer of
Does
us.
3:30 work?
Yes,
then okay.
we do 3:30 and then we come to the. And we may very well be long, because look at us, we're about,
Maybe 4.
okay.
And then we start and that, everybody shows up a minute or two late. So if we're ready to go at 4:00 on the executive committee, and it'll force us to be finished at 5, and we'll have a finance committee, which is already scheduled at 5.
I would imagine for that executive committee, mostly it'd be looking at the meeting agenda. We may have some more updates, but most of what the direction that you've given.
And that's okay.
I don't know that it would be a long agenda.
All right. Sounds good.
Holly?
Actually, Trinity.
Work
Training.
on that thing, Jay?
We'll
On
do
the
it
10th of July.
4 o'clock on July
4,
10th,
5.
and then 5 o'clock for finance and budget.
Okay.
Okay, so just to confirm, 4 o'clock for the executive on the 10th, and then finance and budget at 5.
Very nice.
You're now at.
So we adjourn?
No member comments?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I haven't forgotten your idea for us to fellowship together, so I'm gonna be reaching out to Sika. To get your schedule so we can, the 4 of us, get fellowship somewhere.
Love it. Oh. Swag. We wanna buy swag. We gonna sell swag.
We are in the process, that's new.
I want a white one and I want a periwinkle blue.
Do I send it directly to you? Do I send you an order form? Or do I send?
Okay.
So we will send something out.
This is
All right, perfect.
that's
Okay,
more blue and gray.
I gotcha.
That is my absolute favorite color. That and
So
chocolate.
of course we get, I think, did we give them t-shirts too?
We gave him a t-shirt
So
and
you
a
got
polo.
a t-shirt and a polo.
Yeah, t-shirt.
You should have a t-shirt and a polo.
I think it was a while ago.
Was it, oh, it's up at.
It's
like
probably
back to-
two.
It was of a larger
And
size,
I
yes.
may have thrown it away.
I didn't know you guys.
So we will.
Look at your
send a
new
link out.
size.
We'll send a link out for that.
Different part of the closet.
We will
Okay.
send the link out for sweat.
Yeah, cause I'd love to buy some. I get compliments on this.
Yes.
And I wear my stuff. I'm always.
I love the fact that you do that with schools.
All my
I think that's so neat.
All my,
I love that.
I love it.
I've not seen Mr. Mitchell in his yet.
It is hanging in my closet.
Does he have casual blue?
I don't know.
You've seen me in my pajamas.
If we gave you we wanted to get some, we could use your person and give you the money.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So what we do for team members get one, and we try to look at them once a year, because as you can imagine, we wear them a lot. So once a year we get,
I try to keep the color.
okay, well,
No, I just. Don't want to just pill up on me or nothing like
but
that.
no,
Just
we
keep them
are
out of
creating
sight.
kind of a CSC store type thing
Yeah, and I
that
think
Trinity
that-
is doing.
I love that idea. So I love caps too. All right, if not, all hearts are satisfied.
I moved to adjourn.
There it is. Thank you, public. Thank you, team.
We are adjourned
Thank you.
at 6:11.
Oh, man.